I'm here to talk about my journey as a child-free woman, but also a child-free woman of color from a Southern Asian background, which is a sort of a different beast also in and of itself.
Welcome to Unapologetically Childfree, where you find that child-free community that you never knew existed and can no longer live without. I'm Maggie Jenkins, licensed therapist, but most importantly, I'm your child-free hype woman, and today we have another wonderful guest.
My name is Shweta Ramkumar. I've lived in Australia for the past 22 years. Aside from what I do outside of work, I'm a very proud dog mom. I love to travel. I'm a big foodie, so I love cooking and eating good food. Love my music, love listening to and singing. And yeah, just being creative. It's not only the way I'm making a living, it's quite therapeutic, and it's a way for me to express myself.
You first started with I'm a dog mom, and I think your Instagram is Child-Free Buddies Dog Mom, something like that.
Yes.
We'll have it linked.
Yes.
I'm wondering how you feel about people who say things like, you're replacing kids with a dog, especially since people like me and you use the term dog mom. How do you kind of like navigate that, or does it not even hit your radar?
Well, the good thing is a lot of my friends now, because of the community that I'm a part of, a lot of my friends are not only child-free, they're also cat and dog moms. So they don't find it unusual. Yeah. Even my friends who have children, there's very few of them, they also don't find it unusual. Because for me, I have zero maternal instincts towards babies, toddlers, any human.
Same.
It just comes out in abundance with animals, particularly dogs. Since I was a little girl, that's how I've always been. Animals have always gravitated to me. I'm able to relate to them. I take care of them. I'm very nurturing towards them. I also do a lot of dog sitting. And the clients who I have, they don't want to leave their dog with anybody else but me, because I'm very much like a dog mother for them. Going back to your question, I generally hear of this divide on social media where there are some people who are very offended by us being child-free, but then we call ourselves a mother. And this happens within child-free groups too. Let me just put that out there. To me personally, I don't care if you don't think of me as a mother, it's fine. For me, I take a lot of pride in being a dog mom. It's a big part of my identity. I think it's a privilege for me to be a dog mom. And I love every minute of it, even when he uses this toy to really drive me up the wall. Even when he tests my patience, he is worth everything. I would take a bullet for him.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're talking about taking a lot of pride in being a dog mom. I don't think I've ever thought about it that way. I know I get defensive, like me personally, when someone says something about me using the term dog mom, but I get a lot of the like negative, you're replacing a kid with a dog, you actually do want kids and there's something wrong with you, all of those statements. Mm-hmm. And I get defensive because it's like, yeah, my dogs are my kids, but they're not kids.
Well, they're better than kids, aren't they?
For me, for sure. You know, like, I mean, I've got one, she's back.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she's asleep. Yeah.
Yeah, she's just chilling.
I thought you had two.
I do. They don't really like hang together. Yeah, I think they're definitely better than kids in my opinion. It came into my head when you were talking about like the first thing out of the gate was I'm a dog mom. And I'm like, yeah, we are like the people who identify in this way. And I don't know, it feels empowering to not have this as a hashtag or a side note, because so often in our community of being child-free, especially child-free by choice, since what it feels like birth, it's hard not to shrink yourself. It's hard not to continue to pretend that we're doing life the way that other people want. I'm wondering if this kind of segues into that different beast you were talking about of being child-free by choice as a person of color, and how there's all these expectations that are just thrown on you all the time.
So just a bit of background. I obviously grew up in India. And India, if you don't already know, is a very conservative, very patriarchy-based, sexist, religious country, where there are, not only does religion play a very part in people's day-to-day lives, the culture has a lot of toxicity in the sense that of having very defined and strict gender roles. And this is proliferated by Hindu mythology. Obviously, anything to do with religion is misogynistic and sexist at the best of times. It's proliferated by what you see in generations across different families, where men do one thing and they just don't have to deal with, any sort of child rearing or taking care of the house. That's not an expectation from them. And women have to shoulder everything. So it's not just that they have to be mothers, they also have to be a good wife. They have to take care of and serve the man. Not only that, but also do the same for his parents and his siblings and his side of the family. For us, the women in our culture, the expectation is a lot, but they don't get the treatment or they don't get the respect they deserve for the work they have to do or the expectations that's put on them. So growing up, this is what I really witnessed. As a young child, I was observant and I can sort of pick up on a lot of things. And I was really witnessing that, except for my mom, who was the only one who was not a stay-at-home mother, she was the only one. She's very successful, very career-driven. She was the only one who was different. But everyone else were housewives. Not that I'm saying there's anything wrong in that, but they had just given everything of themselves up to make their husbands happy, to take care of their kids, and to take care of, the in-laws. That was really their whole identity, and their world just revolved around that. And I just saw that and I'm like, no, I don't want any part of this.
Yeah, you're like, pass.
I just thought it was very stifling. And I just felt like even when I would be listening to them, it would be like, oh, I'm doing this because my husband wants it. I'm doing this because my kids want it. So it's never about them. It's always about keeping other people happy. It's taking care of everybody else, but not you. That's when I knew from a very young age, I wanted my own independence. I wanted my own identity. I wanted my autonomy. Through my mom, I was taught from a very young age that I have to be financially independent. Now, that put different pressures on me, but that calls for a different podcast interview. We'll be here forever. I was raised from a very young age to stand on my own 2 feet and make my own money. So, and that is when I realized that, I want to live for myself, and I want to do what's best for me. I want to keep myself happy. And I saw how much kids tie you down, and especially in the culture that I was raised in, the amount of expectations that were placed on women, and just whatever you do it's never good enough. Despite everything, there will always be people are just never happy, and they were always on the receiving end of, passive aggression and sometimes even more serious versions of abuse. And I'm like, no, I deserve better. From a young age, I was programmed into being child-free. That was the starting point, obviously. That planted the seed, and it evolved over a period of time, for sure.
Of course. It's, oh my gosh. So many of you already know that I work in the mental health field, and what you're talking about of the society, the culture is perpetuating the loss of identity for women, the living for other people. I don't really have a value aside from serving others. I'm a vessel for others. That is so problematic in so many ways, because in two things that pop into my head immediately is exactly what you said. You and other women, including myself, deserve a life where we get to be flippin' happy. We get to just have joy. And the idea of women preference and putting joy as a priority has been poo-pooed for so long. Yes. And even just like, I don't know, literally beaten out of us in some cases. That is heartbreaking, because we see it generation after generation of just, how do I find joy, but also live this quote unquote purpose that I've been told that I'm here to do. And that's what I keep hearing in your story, is that there's this, a little girl is born and she is being groomed, so to speak, to be this vessel for others and not have any sort of life or identity of her own.
They didn't succeed, though. They couldn't groom me. Even now, I'm going to be 38 now. I'm a very difficult person to sway or manipulate. I make my own decisions. I decide what's best for me. And I've always been very clear about what I want and don't want from a very young age. Not just about being child-free, but everything else as well.
I'm really interested in this because I'm the same age. I'll be 38 in, I don't know, like 6 months or so. I am a follower. I get influenced like this. Now I get uninfluenced really easily as well. And I'm like, pass. But I'm interested in how, from a very young age, you knew what you wanted and had that clarity. In the world that I live in, I call it my values. So it sounds like you knew what you valued and you knew what was a priority. Tell me how the heck you figured that out, because I'm almost 38 and I'm still figuring it out some days.
Yeah. Look, I don't have the answers to everything. Even now, in a lot of things, like now I've stepped into entrepreneurship. This is something I should have done 7 or 8 years ago, but I was too scared and I was too lazy and I had a million excuses. Now I regret not doing it. But I'm very new to this and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And also because of what's out there on social media, when you see people talking about, I'll help you build 6 figures in 6 months, and you can't tell who's being genuine and who isn't.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, I'm having to figure things out myself. But at the
Mhm.
same time, I have a community of people who I really trust and they really want the best for me.
Of course.
But going back to it, like I never thought that I would want to or even consider working for myself. Because again, no one in my family has done that. And the ones who have, it has not worked out for them. So whereas I'm the only one now who is now venturing towards becoming self-employed. So I am a trailblazer in the family in more ways than one. I was exposed to travel from a young age. So my parents used to love going on road trips, so they would take time off, put me in the car, they'll just drive off to places here and there in India. That's how my love for travel really started, and up until now, I've done close to 50 countries now. And I knew growing up that I wanted to travel. I grew up in a musical family. I wanted to not necessarily pursue music as a career, but I wanted it to be a part of my life. And I actually have a tattoo on my right shoulder of a treble clef. So music is a big part of my life. But then again, I'm different in the sense that people in my family, extended family, I mean, they think there's only one type of right music, and that is Indian classical. Whereas I'm like, I don't care. Don't get me wrong. When I learned that, it gave me a very good foundation, but there was zero creativity in that field of music. And I was just like, no, I don't want to do this. I was good at writing. I was an avid reader, and I still am all those things. It is going back to that whole element of nature versus nurture. Now, for some people, if they grew up in a household where all of this was just not encouraged, and obviously someone like you who works in mental health, you would have heard this from a lot of your clients that, I grew up in a home that was dysfunctional or abusive.
Sure.
And for them, that creativity becomes an escape for them. Whereas in my family, it was encouraged. Even if I wanted to become professional in that field, I would have got the full support of my parents. But yes, I never thought that I would ever even consider becoming self-employed. But then a lot of factors led me to where I am currently. I knew deep down that I wanted to be a teacher because I was always good as a teacher from a young age. But I did my time in the school system. I was clear I would do it for 5 years. I did it. Now I'm out of it. I am now stepping into more of the coaching space now. So which sort of combines what I like to do and what I'm good at. And something that I have knowledge in. Yeah.
I love that. I know so many teachers who just stopped teaching. These are all in the States where the education system is a little bit not great. That's the way that I can say it. They're controlled a lot. And they're also child-free. And like, yeah, I got my kid fix for those that enjoy kids. I'm kind of indifferent.
Totally. My reason for leaving teaching had nothing to do with the kids. The kids was what I enjoyed, believe it or not. And yeah, even now, like the students I work with are all adults. And I'm sure that if I had the chance, I could go back to a school. But it's just what you're talking about. It's the bureaucracy, the lack of autonomy, all the administrative stuff, and how much they scrutinize you and how much they macromanage you. It's like, no, that's not what I'm about. And also, I think the education system is outdated more than anything. It's not equipping students to really live and thrive in a world that is the way it is at the moment. So, yeah.
It parallels what you're talking about with the culture that you grew up in, which to me feels outdated, to me feels full of bureaucracy, the religion of just, here's this list of rules that somebody somewhere created, and we're still following them and not actually having deliberate critical thought to say, is this a universal path? Why do we have to put every single person into this one path and say,
yes,
it's going to work? And what you're talking about is being this trailblazer, which, damn, that's hard to be a trailblazer in any circumstance, but to do it in multiple ways just sounds like, I don't know, you've been climbing mountain after mountain. Does it feel that way, or does it feel more fluid for you?
I think especially from the culture that I come from, this is very hard. They just do not embrace it. Actually, interestingly, I was having a session with my therapist, and I told her about what had happened in the last 2 weeks. And this is what she said to me, that a lot of the times my parents, when in my early 20s especially, because I thought so differently from what was normal, because I wanted to do things very differently from what was normal, they always used to say that I have a twisted thinking. That was their very fancy way of saying that something is wrong with me, without hurting my feelings. But that was bad enough. That did the damage.
Twisted thinking, that hurts.
Yeah. And then what happened was, because I was having this tug of war between what I wanted to do versus what they had expected from me, that obviously manifested as anxiety and depression. Mind you, 20 years ago, we didn't have the level of awareness that we have now. So they would take me to every psychologist, every counselor, every psychiatrist to just literally fix the depression and anxiety. But we all know, but it's only something that people have learned about recently, that those are symptoms. Those are not illnesses or problems in itself. There is a cause or a root behind it. It's usually trauma. It's a whole heap of other reasons for it. Obviously, in my case, it was much more in depth. I had a lot of setbacks one after the other in 2010. And my parents were really worried that I have autism or Asperger's. And even last year, a friend of mine, she's no longer my friend, she also told me, oh, you might want to get yourself tested for autism or Asperger's. I don't see it as a problem that needs to be fixed, or I have an illness that needs to be medicated. I don't see it that way. There are so many people who are on the spectrum and they're so successful. My therapist said to me, you're not neurodivergent, but you're highly intelligent. You are very perceptive. You're very observant. You see things in a way that other people don't. Making your mark in a community like the one that you come from is very difficult, because they will never, ever accept the way that you live, the way that you think. Because everyone I know who is from my background, everyone is doing the same thing. Everyone has bought a house, they are married, they have 2.5 kids. Everyone is working a corporate job. I'm the only one who's like really the black sheep, who just does not want anything to do with that.
And then the labels on top of it of just like, so this has got to be the reason. We've got to give you a label that says it's anxiety, depression, neurodivergency, something. That's why. Man, that gets me fired up.
Yeah, but even if I was neurodivergent, look, I'm not going to lie. I'm probably on the spectrum in some ways because of how I communicate sometimes, because I'm just too honest. I can't fake anything. And if I don't like someone or if I don't like something, I'll just tell them. So I have zero filter. So people think that's why I'm neurodivergent. Fine. I'm going to be unapologetic about it. Like you say in your podcast, unapologetic, child-free. So yeah, that's just how it is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm neurospicy, as they say, and it's part of, it's just how my brain works. It's not why I'm child-free. It's not why I chose to not have kids. It's not why I chose to leave my tiny little town that I went to high school in, where nothing ever happens and everybody does the same thing. It's not why I chose to move to Portugal. It's kind of like what we're talking about, like nature versus nurture. On some level, we get to nurture ourselves. And that's what I'm hearing from you, is that your family, especially your nuclear family, your family at home, supported you in your creativity and all of those things. And that allowed you to then nurture all the other aspects of who you are, that said, here's the life I want to lead. These are the things that I want to accomplish in my life. That's empowering. That's #goals right there. I think it's amazing.
Yeah. I think for my parents, because I was always academically very strong, they just assumed that, they won't have to worry about me. I'll just find a career and I will just, so they thought that because I'm academically good, I'm going to be a good fit in the corporate world. But that backfired very badly. So, but now I think for them, when I was telling them in my early days that, I don't want to do this, they would put a lot of fear in my head that if I don't do this, I will never be employed. I will never do this. Back then, everyone's knowledge was very limited. But now they are completely on board with whatever it is that I'm doing, whatever it is that I choose to do. Because now it's becoming more popular, but also they've seen the damage the old life did to me. So they're like, nah, we'd rather have you happy than be miserable doing something that you have to do just to keep us happy. Honestly, I don't even know if my extended family really questions them, because we're in Australia and they are all the way in India and other parts of the world. We're not in each other's pockets, so which is very convenient, There was actually a podcast episode that I did where I mentioned specifically why I have left the toxic Indian community. And these are the reasons for it. That episode goes into it in a lot of detail, but it has elements of what I'm mentioning right now. And even if I go to one of their gatherings and I mentioned that, well, here's the deal. I'm actually, becoming self-employed. I have chosen not to have children. I'm living in a 1-bedroom apartment. My partner is Caucasian and we don't want to have kids. We're not interested in buying a big house. And they will look at me as if something is wrong with me.
Yeah.
And they will, even though they won't say it to my face, amongst each other, they'll be gossiping. So I'm like, no, I don't want to put myself in that situation.
No. Why? I think this is something that just, like I'm done. I'm not going to be a part of that. I feel that for sure. I talk a lot about being confident and leaning into what I mean by unapologetically child-free is this is who I am. This is, or part of who I am. I am all of these things. I'm neurospicy. I'm child-free. I am a night owl, not a morning person. I am very particular about how I like my house to look and how I like to clean. And instead of feeling as if I need to apologize and say, I'm so sorry, or give a defense, I did that so much in my early 20s because it was me and one other person that I knew that was child free. And she was, I'm never going to get married and I'm never going to have kids. And I was like, I'm going to get married and we're never going to have kids. So it even felt like a little bit of she was completely shirking the tradition. And I am somebody who's like, I want half of it. I want the one half of the tradition and not the other. So it still felt like I had to defend myself of, people asking, why do you want to get married if you don't want to have kids? And it's like, why are those things the same?
I mean, for me personally, again, marriage doesn't interest me. And again, someone who's Southern Asian, you don't say that. You don't say that because when you get to my age, especially by my age, you're married at least for 5 or 6 years, and you're expected to pop out 2.5 kids.
Yeah.
But everyone knows that I'm with my partner. We're just happy living together.
Yeah.
Bring space. We have and being dog parents. We do not need a piece of paper to validate or justify our relationship. And going back to what you said about, having to justify your choices about why you're child free. Again, that is not a requirement. Not many people have asked me why I don't want kids. I'm very fortunate that way. At least people who matter to me. And the few that I have, I can actually tell the difference between if they're being nosy or if they're genuinely curious. If they're being nosy, I'm just going to say it's a personal choice and none of your business. I've said that a few times in the past. Because I can tell that they're just
shutting
nosy.
It down.
Yeah. So it's and I don't need to explain myself to you. But for the people who are genuinely curious, I've told them what my reasons are. And surprisingly, every parent I've spoken to who knows my decision, they're like, you're very smart. It's a very smart choice that you've made. Something that they wish they knew that it was an option and they could have taken it if they knew better.
That is the piece right there. If I knew different, I would have at least considered being child free. I hear that from some of the friends that I have that are parents or just parents that I have met in my life. And I am hoping that with, our presence online, yours and mine, all of our contemporaries that have these child-free platforms, it's not about saying, at least for me, the whole world needs to stop having kids. It's more of let's have the default, in my opinion, the default be we are child-free. And then we actively make this conscious decision to bring kids into this world. And I know that's a utopia. I don't think that's going to ever happen, but I'm hoping we move into that because what you were talking about is you have reasons why you're child free. I have reasons why I'm child free. And many parents don't have that process where they say, I became a parent because I thought about this and I noodled through this. And it's just, I did the thing.
That's just what you do. That's what they've been told. And I've been seeing all of the friends from the Southern Asian community, just one after the other. That's what they're doing. They got married 5 years ago or 4 years ago. Every one of them now is popping out 2. Some of them have 1 child and no one questions it. No one is like, is this even something that is right for me? Is this even something that I really want to do? Even with their careers, there's is this something that I want to do? Because everyone is in the corporate world. Sure, they're making good money, but how many of them are happy? You don't talk about that in our families. We don't have that in our culture. We don't openly share feelings. We don't openly express ourselves. And I think also that's why I am so big on self-expression now. When the content that I'm making for my business, you can actually see how expressive I am. And even when I show up on places like this, I really speak my mind because, again, I was not taught to do that as a child. And I was taught to just be safe, to not take risks, to not piss anybody off. So, and even from a young age, and it was not just from my parents, it was from everybody, even my friends, they're like, look, I'm not I don't go out and cause conflict or go out and confront people. Right. But if something doesn't sit right with me, I will just tell them. And the problem now that I'm experiencing is that this is now also penetrated into child-free groups that I'm a part of, even including the ones in my city where we have this big community of about 1,000 women. For me, that is very disheartening. What is really worse is that the place that you are as a group of people that are marginalized, that are really misunderstood by mainstream society, you go to these communities to find like-minded people to support you, to uplift you, to validate you, who you can vent to, whatever.
Yeah.
You can't now. You have to walk on eggshells around those people as well. You have to do that to the
That's
rest of society.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
so. There's two things, right? So online communities, when they're just like comments or a Facebook group or, threads on threads. And those are hard because you don't know the person well enough. You don't understand their tone. And I think that there is a level of just passivity that we have come to in our kind of collective, universal, progressive culture, if you will, of just you be you without any level of accountability. One of the things that I tell people that I work with in my counseling business, and then I also tell my friends, is no matter what's going on in your life, it doesn't give you permission to be a jerk.
Oh, totally.
And so whether you're going through depression and anxiety, which I have chronic anxiety and I have had bouts of depression, it never gave me a right to just be an a-hole to people and just be like, oh, it's because I have anxiety. No.
Yeah.
So I think that we have to like find that middle ground, that middle path between you get to do whatever you want and then being overly controlling of other people. And that's really hard, especially as communities get to be that like 300 plus. That's kind of this marker that I have found, especially with online communities, because I've been involved in Childfree online communities since 2012. And so a very long time. And every single time the group gets to be about, like the main umbrella group gets to be about more than 300, it just starts there's infighting. And some of that infighting is tone policing and with just the language, child free versus childless. And are you child free if you are a step parent? Like all of these things. And I have my thoughts and my opinions of what I think those words mean. But it's my business, aside from, I guess it's literally my business. But it's none of my like emotional business to say, you can't be here, or you're not being child free enough because you like kids, so you can't be child free, or you are being too mean to parents, so you can't be
I hate
here.
that. I hate that. Our group is only for child free people. Who cares what parents think? They are not part of the group. It doesn't matter. One of my very recent Instagram posts, which has mentioned all this, and the fact that these groups, some of them, you can't say anything negative about children or parents. Now, I admit some of them, that's all they do. Some groups, it's the other extreme. That's all they do. Every single post is about, I saw a kid do this. I saw a parent do that. That brings the whole vibe down completely. But at the same time, the other extreme is you can't say anything negative about parents. I mean, we're not here. This group is not for parents. We're not here to please parents. And these people who have this superiority complex or the Stockholm syndrome, just because they worship parents and they love children and they put down the ones like us. I don't dislike children. There are certain like children under a certain age I don't want to be around. And some people will just retaliate, oh, you're just being mean to parents. So like this group is full of child-free people. Who gives a shit about what parents want and don't want? So
So there's actually a diagram for this, and there's this place of where venting is really helpful. And so I'm indifferent to kids of pretty much all ages until they get to be like college students. Oh man, I have joked about this. Like if I could have just like had a college student, like if that could have been my parenting journey, that like a fully functional, like well-adjusted college student could have like knocked on my door and been like, hey mom, I would have been like, come on in. Let me make you something for dinner. I probably would have embraced that because they're not a kid, they're an adult, and then I can hang out with them. But I'm indifferent to kids. So some of the conversations about like parents and kids, it's like this doesn't even cross my mind. And now here we are in this like huge thread of like ripping apart something that I never want to be a part of. Like I don't want to get into is this a good parenting practice or not? Because I don't want to be a parent. Right? Like I don't want to say.
I don't think that we even have a place to say anything because we're not parents.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's common courtesy. There's the like, in Southern Europe where I live, they have what I call free range kids. So like kids are
traveled extensively. But and I have to say the kids in Europe, and I was recently in Japan, so much better behaved than anywhere or any like States or Australia or UK. Yes.
Yeah. And so the free range kids, sometimes because I have my dogs, and they want to come say hey to the dogs, or they just happen to like come into my space because they're not aware that I have a very large personal bubble. And
Okay.
and the thing is that can be irritating to me, but that's not anything I'm going to like walk away from for the next 10 minutes and go, "Brr, brr, I'm so mad at like I moved
Yeah.
out of the way of the kid and kept on walking. And I think in some of these groups, we do find that ends up being a thread that people talk
Yes,
about. And it's
a
like,
big topic of discussion,
yeah, it's like,
Come on.
move on with your life. And like,
Yeah.
we don't have time for it today, and hopefully you'll be able to come on again. But I
Yes.
think this even topic of what does our life look like outside of this one piece of our identity of being child free? How do we
Yes.
live it? You're talking about being creative and starting your own business and moving into the coaching space. And to me, that is like, I get to do this because I'm child free, or in addition to being child free, I have this other venture, this other idea. And that is being unapologetically child free. It's saying,
Yeah.
I don't have to continue to talk about my choice. I don't have to continue. I mean, I do because this is what I do, but the general population doesn't have to do that. And
Yes.
it's so much fun to just like live our life and not get caught up in what you're talking about when I'm talking about of our online communities, just the infighting with each other, or the policing of how child free are you, and
Whatever else. Yeah.
all of those things. It just,
Yeah.
it makes me
We have
sometimes
better
just,
things to do.
yeah.
And I think just a couple of things, what you mentioned. So I think for me, I'm able to take risks and be flexible and change careers and travel and whatever else that I'm doing because my choice has equipped me to do that. I've made a conscious choice because I value all these things over being a mother. So, and I'm not saying that parents cannot do it. My
Of
mom
course.
fully established in her career till she was in her mid 40s. So by that time, I was like almost a teenager. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that parents cannot do it. It's just for people like you and I, doing it with children will be very difficult because of how we are as individuals, because we like our space, we like our freedom, we take care of our mental health. All these things we place a lot of value on. And for us, we need that autonomy and that freedom to really explore and do what we want to do. And the other thing also about being unapologetic is, what we talked about just a while ago, that you are child free, you will speak about it, you will express yourself, you'll be candid about it, and you do not care about whether it's going to upset one of these child free people who panders to parents, or some child free people a person who loves children, or some parent who's probably looking at your content. No, it doesn't matter. So
There's
if
a
you
lot of
don't
those.
like it, no. And, I did a TikTok recently, and again, went completely viral. And there were a couple of trolls, and they were like, what you're posting about is going to upset parents. You seem to have a hatred for the human race. And I'm like, this post, it's not for parents. If they look at it and get upset by it, it's not my problem. And if you are getting upset by this, it was actually targeted at you. It's targeted at people like you who think that you are so morally superior because you worship parents and you worship children, and the ones who don't are just pieces of shit. So, I gave
it doesn't pass the vibe check at all.
No,
like those comments
I just gave as good as I got. So yeah, so they've seen themselves out. So let's just
yeah,
say,
there's so much more. There's so much more to talk about. And I'm just so happy that we were able to cover what we did. Hopefully we can have you on in the future, because this has just been a lovely conversation. This has just been
totally
so
agree.
nice. Before we end, let's kind of just take a moment, remind everybody who you are and any ways that you would like them to find you. And then I will put all those links in the show notes so they can find you on social.
I'm pretty active on Instagram and TikTok. I do TikToks almost every day. Most of them feature my dog. So if I'm too hesitant to show my face, I'll just put my dog in, and that gets a lot of attention anyway. I should really call it his TikTok, not mine. And then obviously I've got my Instagram. I'm not as active there. I do it mainly to participate with all the child-free content creators and the forums and everything like that. Professionally, best place to find me would be on LinkedIn. So, but yeah. And I also have a YouTube channel for my business, so you can obviously check that out. And I would love to connect with anyone and everyone.
Oh, this has been so lovely. I'm gonna definitely see if we can do this again soon, because this has just been
100%. Yeah,
so fun. This has been so fun. And thank you again.
Thank you for having me. It's been a real privilege and honor and pleasure.